we're going to build the fixed header on our subpages now. This is where the page scrolls, but the header does not move. Notice there's a little bit of transparency when I do this. I've done that just to make it interesting looking in my fixed header. You don't have to do that. I've done this by using a color format called RGBA, red, green, blue, and alpha is the transparency. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a container at the top of our page. We're going to create a div. Then we're going to put our brand, which is our logo, and our navigation into that div. So let's go ahead and start that. I'm going to start that on a copy of my midterm. So I have a midterm folder right here. This is how I'd finish the code base that I gave you for the midterm. And we're going to see what we have to start with. We're going to go inside the HTML folder. Remember, we don't need to do this to the home page, only the subpages. And look at the store page. And the store page does not have a fixed header. We're going to add a fixed header and put our logo and our navigation into our fixed header. So let's go to our text editor and open up the store page. It's just one of my subpages. Go into my regular midterm. Go into my HTML. We'll go into the store. We also want to open up the main CSS style sheet because we're going to have to do some CSS. We're going to make the container on the HTML page, the store page. Then we're going to actually style the container on the external style sheet. So we'll open that as well, main.css. So let's go up to the very top area where we can put content on our page, and that's right inside our body tag. And we're going to write a new container. But before that, I'm going to put a comment in and say fixed header starts here. And I'm going to put another comment in where it ends. This just makes it easier for us to work with this. And change that to ends. So what we need to do is we need to make a container, then we need to give it a custom class so we can apply some CSS to this container. So we're just going to say opening div tag for our container and put a class in there. Class equals, put your quotes in. I'm going to call this one top fixed is the name of my class. Then I'm going to come down and put a closing tag for this container. And clean up the spacing a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to move our logo and our navigation in. So our navigation is down here in the unordered list. And our logo is living in the header right here is our logo image. So I'm going to capture everything from my navigation. And I'm going to cut that. Edit cut. Now I'm going to put that into the fixed header area. Now I'm going to also get my logo from my header. Don't take the wrapper tag above the header. That needs to say where it is to basically control the width of the content that will be below the fixed header. So I'm going to edit cut that. I want to put the logo above the navigation in my fixed header. That's there. Let's clean up the spacing a little bit. Pull this nav tag back out. I also have an HR in there I don't need any longer, so I'm going to get rid of this HR. And since this is a comment about the navigation, I'm going to move that to where the navigation is. I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to put that right above my nav just so I have the comments in the proper place. So let's save that and look at it in our browser to see what's going on. Make sure we're going in the right place. We're working in the midterm folder. Make sure you make a copy of your midterm folder. Don't write in the original, so that way you have a safety copy to work with. I'm just going to call this store.html, the original name of the file. And let's go look at this in the web browser. Let's go to Chrome. That's the one I like to work in. We'll file open, desktop, regular midterm, and we're going to go into HTML, and we're going to go into store. And it's not doing anything because we haven't written the CSS to actually work with our fixed header. So let's go to the main.css file and write the CSS that's going to make our fixed header actually function properly. Let's go to main CSS. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom and write that new custom class. And remember, we named it top fixed. So we're going to have to write a dot for the custom class and call it top fixed. Give it a space and put your curly braces in. Now there's some things we need to do to this. We have to first tell it to be fixed. So we're going to write position colon fixed. Next, we need to set up some of the specifications. We want it to start at the top of the page. So we're going to put top colon 0. That means it's starting at the very top of the page. Then we're going to tell it that it needs to start at the exact far left of the page so it goes all the way across. So we're going to go left 0. Then we want it to go all the way to the right side, so we're going to actually come down and tell it right 0, meaning go all the way to the right. Now we need to give it a height. We'll be changing this to make sure everything fits, but we're going to start with a height. Let's look at 100 pixels to start with. I know we're going to have to change this, but we'll start with this. And then after that, we can put in the color for the fixed header. So we're just going to use it as a background color so that our logo and our navigation text sit on top of the background color. I'm just going to call it background. I'm going to do an RGBA color just so you can see what it looks like. So you basically do this. Put your background in colon, then you state RGBA, and that stands for red, green, blue, and alpha. And alpha is transparency. Then you need to put some parentheses right after the A. And the first value is your red value. I'm going to put 28 in there. I'm going to put my green value in, which is 64. I'm going to put my blue value in, that's 119. Then my last value, I'm going to put a comma and a space, and I'm going to go 0.95 for my alpha. That's my transparency. I'm going to put my semicolon in. On the transparency, if you have a 1.0, that's 100% opaque. That means you will not see anything through it. As you reduce that number down from 1.0 to lesser numbers, it'll make it more transparent. I don't want to see a lot of movement go through there, so I'm going to make it where it's only 5% transparent or 95% opaque. So let's save this and check our page in the browser. Save our style sheet. Go back to our browser and refresh. And there's our fixed header. You can see the 100 pixels is not tall enough in our height to contain all of our content. So let's go back and change that so that it looks better. Let's go back to our style sheet, and we're going to go to our fixed header height, and I'm going to put in 200 and see what that looks like. Let's go back to the browser. And that does cover everything. But you'll notice my text is not really looking great right now, and we'll address that in another video. But that's how you actually put your fixed header onto a web page. First, you create the container at the top. You put your logo into it. You put your navigation into it. Then you come to your CSS, and you're going to say that custom class, you're going to say position fixed. Set the top to 0 so it starts at the top. Set the left to 0 so it goes to the far left. Set the right to 0 so it goes to the far right. And then set the height. That's how tall that the fixed header will be. I put RGBA color in there. We can also put in another color if you wanted to. You don't have to use RGBA. You can use hex color. So we could put a hex color in there of gray, 404040. Pick colors that work well for your design scheme. Let's go back and look at that. So there's a gray in there. You notice though, check it out, you notice how some of our content is still bunched up under this? We need to add some top margin to our body tag so that our content is not hiding up under the fixed header. So let's go to our body tag. And we're just going to add margin top to push that content down from our fixed header. And remember that our fixed header is about 200 pixels in height. So to clear the information that would normally be at the top of the page from being hidden under that, it has to be at least 200 pixels. So I'm going to make it 205 pixels just to give it a little breathing room. Let's save that and check it. Okay, so you can see that's where the top of our hero image starts. And there's our scroll. Check it at a narrow view for the mobile view. And that works too. So let's do this to another page. So besides the store page, we can go and we can open the community page. And so once again, we're going to create, actually I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to steal my comment. Fixed header starts here. So on the community page, very top, right under the body tag, paste fixed header starts there. Paste it down there and put an ending comment. Now we need to move our logo and our navigation into that area. So I'm going to move my logo first. Don't take the wrapper, leave the wrapper where it is. Cut that. Paste that. Now let's go get our navigation. Cut that. Put our navigation into our fixed header. Clean up that spacing a little bit. Get rid of our horizontal rule. We don't need that any longer. File save this. We don't have to write any new CSS because that's in an external style sheet and all the pages will share that same fixed header CSS. Let's go back over here. Widen this out. We'll go to the community, refresh that. I didn't save it yet. Let me save it. Aha, I know what I'm doing wrong. I didn't create the container. I moved everything, but I didn't create the container. So let's do the container. Right under the body, let's do our div. Opening with a custom class of top fixed. And close our container right after the nav. Save that, go back over here. And there's our fixed header on our community page. We have one more page to do, workshops. So let's go ahead and do that one. Open your third subpage. And right after the body, I'm going to take care of my container first. And use my custom class of top fixed. Close that container. Once again, I'm going to steal a comment. Put my comment right above it. And right where it ends, I'll put a comment right after it so we know what's going on. Now I'm going to move my collateral in there. I'm going to move my logo by moving the header. Paste that in here. Now I'm going to get my navigation. Get the comment with it. Clean that up a little bit. Clean up that spacing just a little more. Get rid of my HR, but leave my wrapper where it is. Save the workshop page. Go back and test it. There's my workshop, and notice that that same 205 pixels of top margin that we put on the body is on all of our pages. Alright, so there's our fixed header. Next video we'll look at correcting the navigation text for the fixed header.